Testimony Tuesday with Missy Reilly Smith. Today on The Simple Truth, we consecrate everything to the Sacred Heart of Jesus through the Immaculate Heart of Mary and the pure, strong, chaste heart of Saint Joseph. I'm your host, Jim Havens, and our guest today is Missy Reilly Smith, Catholic mom and grandmother. She's been a full-time pro-life activist for over 25 years. She's the foundress of WAKE UP, Women Against the Killing and Exploitation of Unprotected Persons. You can find it over at wakeup.mom. Missy Reilly Smith, welcome to The Simple Truth. How are you today?
Thank you, Jim. I'm very well. Very honored to be here with you today.
Excellent. Great blessing to have you here with us, and very pleased that you're here to share some of your story today, and we're going to dive in just a moment. But before we begin, I do want to remind everyone to remember iCatholic Mobile. It's the only Catholic mobile phone company in the U.S. today. So when you subscribe to iCatholic Mobile, you do help fund the Station of the Cross. You can check out iCatholic Mobile at iCatholicMobile.com. All right, Missy, what was your early life like? We always start at the beginning. Your family, the culture that you grew up in.
Irish Catholic. I was the oldest girl of 7 children. The 4 oldest children were raised in a very predictable, very straight. We went to Catholic schools. We observed all the rules of the Catholic faith. My mother was a convert to Catholicism. My father was the son of immigrants from Ireland. So, as I say, my early childhood was a bit like Leave It to Beaver. Meals every night. My father came home from work. He was an attorney, and just exactly what you would think, or at least I would think, until the 60s hit. And by that time, my mother had had 3 more children, and they were now part of that culture, 1965 culture of, the Vietnam War and just flower children and all that. And my poor parents, I think, were in a state of shock. The first 4 had been pretty easy compared to the 3 that came after that. So, yeah, it was a very nice, safe childhood, I have to say. It was very, very. My mother was a wonderful mother, and my father was a good man. So it was.
And was it a Catholic upbringing at that point? I believe it was. So what was it like back then in terms of the sacraments? You would have been probably baptized very quickly after birth, and then First Holy Communion. When would that have occurred? You would have probably been a young girl, and then confirmation. What was that like? Anything else you want to share about just the sacramental life, the parish life of that time?
Well, I made my first communion. I had 3 orders of nuns: Benedictine, Holy Cross, and then Sisters of Providence. And now, keep in mind when it was I was born in 1943, so it was after the war that I started school. And I made my first communion in, I believe I was 7. And the nuns, there were 100 children in my class. Each class had 100 children. That was a lot of kids to have for one nun. But the nuns, they must have done a beautiful job, because I can remember thinking that my wish on that day was that I would die after I had Holy Communion, and I knew I'd go to heaven. So I think in that I was catechized very well in that sense and formed beautifully. And then I made my confirmation. And I went to a school with, both male and female for grade school, and then broke off as we did at that time when there were those parish schools were big. So I went to an all-girls high school, and my brothers went to an all-male high school. And but life really did change drastically in 1965. Not only the Vietnam War, but the birth control pill and all of that. And I married early in my 20s. And I have to say, I guess I did stray. Obviously, I strayed because I was a young woman. And when you're in your 20s, you think you know a lot. I just, now I think back and realize I knew nothing. That I was very naive. And so I did immediately have 3 little girls, and the first one died in childbirth. And then I had 2 little toddlers. And my husband had psychological problems. And so I moved on after trying to have priests speak with us and try to work things out, but it was not possible. I went to work for a doctor at Georgetown Hospital, and then I met a man that fell in love with me and wanted to marry me, and I wanted to marry him. So we married outside of the church, and I went to confession. The priest said, well, I can bless you, but I cannot absolve you of your sins because you're married outside the church. And so I went about getting an annulment, which was not hard to get. And we went on to have 3 more children. And but I was, I never felt as though I was a feminist, and I felt I was a mother, and ultimately we had a son that was born with Down syndrome. And my husband and my husband named him after his family name, John Lewis Smith IV, which was quite an honorable thing because his family had been very prominent in Washington. And we knew that John would not follow in their footsteps, as being, my father-in-law was a federal judge. His father, my husband's grandfather, was very, very prominent in Washington. And so John, the first number of years, there was a lot of surgery. He had Hirschsprung's disease. He probably in the first 6 years had 10 surgeries. And as you may or may not know, individuals with Downs have a very vulnerable immune system. So there was lots of pneumonia in and out of the hospital. And but ultimately, John really became well and went to school, learned to read, write, and do arithmetic, learned how to actually drive a car. He was just pure love and a great young man. And when he was 19, he had a massive heart attack at school and died. And that threw all of us into a state of shock. We just had no idea. We didn't take it into consideration that John would die. As a matter of fact, my husband and I often spoke about making plans when we passed away that there would be support for him. He went to the Benedictine school. We thought he would go on into their community. I don't know if you know of it, but it was a beautiful school for so-called exceptional children, and he did very well, was very loved. And but his death catapulted me into a spiritual realm of saying, wait a minute, I know where he is. He's with the Blessed Mother, and he's all right. He's okay. And that led me to go to Medjugorje on a pilgrimage, and that absolutely opened the doors to an enormous amount of grace. It manifested itself in probably becoming a pro-life activist, first of all. I immediately found out about the trafficking of baby body parts and was horrified. I got in touch with 4 other women, and we got together on December 8th, and we prayed, and we came up with the acronym WAKE UP, Women Against the Killing and Exploitation of Unprotected Persons. And so the other 4...
All right, we're going to hit the break here, but we've got Missy Reilly Smith with us. Great blessing to have her here sharing some of her testimony, some of her story with us today. Always on holy ground when we hear these testimonies, and just beautiful the way that God works in our lives. And think about these times of grace that he gives us, where, we might take it for granted, right? We often do, sadly. We might stray, might be unfaithful in various ways. And yet, he still keeps coming. He still keeps coming for our hearts. The hound of heaven keeps on coming. And when we recognize that grace for us in a powerful way, when he's able to break through, to be able to open the heart, open the life, begin again with him, and go where he leads. We're going to be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Simple Truth. Jim Havens here with our guest today, Missy Smith, sharing some of her personal testimony. You can find out more about her and her good work by going to wakeup.mom. And where we left off, Missy, so it sounds like there was this experience of renewal in your relationship with God, with the reality, the truth of Jesus and his Catholic Church, and just a renewal of life that launches you into this sort of missionary endeavor with the great need that is before all of us in terms of the ongoing daily mass murder of the preborn that is in our midst by the thousands every day, hundreds of thousands worldwide every day, by the thousands each day just in our nation alone, more than a 9/11 in terms of numbers every single day in the U.S. And so something rose in you that you needed to get active. And so the good work that comes from this really is amazing. We're going to get into it. But before we do, I do want to just kind of back up and say, if there's anything else that just leading up to all of this that you wanted to share, I just wanted to make sure that you had time to get that in before we get into the good work, because there is so much to get to there.
Well, I think there are a couple of things that are probably necessary. So because of our audience and the objective to bring women out of their guilt and shame that have been naive and fooled or forced or coerced into having an abortion. And I did. And I think that's, I would like to encourage women. I know thousands with Operation Outcry, and even more with Silent No More. And then I think that that will lead into crimes against humanity, which is a lawsuit that I'm forming. But our son's death, really, I refer to it as my redemption, because God often has to break the heart to bring us back and to, back onto the path, the road less traveled. And John's death was that for me. I understand there are people who feel when they've lost a child that it was, how could God do that to me? I never felt that way. I never blamed God. But I did know for sure that he was in heaven. And it opened the doors for me to do things that I would never, ever, I don't believe I ever would have done. A, had he not passed away so suddenly. B, had I not gone to Medjugorje, really diving into my faith, almost an obsession. Couldn't get enough to read, study, daily mass, and multiple daily masses in Medjugorje, rosaries said all day, all of those things. And then coming back into a world where, and it was all God opening these doors to speak. I was very naive. I really believed that I had the silver bullet. I believed if there would be no woman who would ever have an abortion if she realized that they were cutting their baby up and selling the parts like parts from an automobile. But I was naive. It didn't, but I did speak, I did write. I went into probably every aspect of the pro-life movement, sidewalk counseling, working with pregnancy centers. And then I ran for Congress here in Washington because there is a law, a federal law that says if you can get on the federal ballot, you can run television ads without being censored or edited. So I ran against Eleanor Holmes Norton, not with the idea that I would win, because Washington, D.C. is a Democratic city, and I was running on traditional family pro-life values. But I was able to show hundreds and hundreds, up to maybe 500 television ads, and place them strategically so that people watching late night TV or even, excuse me, young people coming home from school could actually see the victims of abortion, because like Frank Pavone says, unless America sees abortion, it'll never end. So that was very, very successful. And it was something that I would never have done. I didn't really know that much about politics. And the doors just kept opening up. And it took me a while on this journey to then comprehend that that chastity was really the answer to all of this perversion with all the way up to today. And I got a very large devotion to Our Lady of America, and how, of course, she's promised that her image is solemnly processed into the Basilica here in Washington, and then honored that America would lead the world in chastity and purity. So I started a radio program called Chastity, the New Sexual Revolution, and interviewed chastity speakers from across the country. I partnered with the John Paul Institute over by the Basilica, bringing in chastity speakers from across the country. And, ultimately put a magazine out called Chastity, the New Sexual Revolution. So that covers a lot of ground, doing a lot of things, which, again, I give the credit to Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and the Blessed Mother, because of I just don't believe that I would have done all these things had it not for their encouragement and the grace that came from making the trip to Medjugorje and accepting the death of our child as a gift, a sorrowful gift, but a gift to redeem me from veering off the track, and to do something in return and try to help women that are in need. And so it's been a very fulfilling, exciting journey, and a different journey than I had ever imagined.
Yeah, incredible. Missy Reilly Smith is with us. You can find out more about her good work at wakeup.mom. Just incredible. I do want to also encourage any women or men who have been part of an abortion, and even siblings. There's even healing out there for siblings that have had other siblings killed by abortion. There's some great resources out there. We often have Teresa Bonapartis on the show, but you can find a link to her website and other healing websites. If you go to lovewillendchildkilling.com, click on the healing tab, and there's a lot of great information there. Missy, anything else you want to share on that, on the healing that is available? And then, I'd love to hear more about this class action lawsuit.
Well, we know that Rachel's Vineyard they have wonderful retreats. And I've spent a lot of time with Operation Outcry and Silent No More, but have done a lot of work with Operation Outcry. And those women are beautiful, and it's just so eager to share and incorporate, to love, to heal together. There's so much help out there, and I think that removing the guilt and the shame is I think it's a very big challenge. But when you look at the statistics, it shows that, women under duress in situations where they have so few choices, they're frightened, and then you have, the people that work at these clinics, or the killing places, they're very, very crafty. And of course, there's always the assumption that if it's legal, which now we know that I think there are 15 states that it's illegal, but there's still many where it is legal. There is this thought that if it has to be okay if it's legal, which we run into all the time on the sidewalks, which, as you know, is not necessarily true. But I do encourage people. My phone number is available. I'm more than happy to speak to anyone. They can write to me. All of my contact information is on my website, wakeup.mom. And come out of the shadows. The premise for the lawsuit is that we've all been hurt. We've all been victims of abortion. I don't believe it is just the post-abortive human, the woman, the father, the grandparents, the friends that drove the woman to the killing place. I think as a nation, we all have been hurt terribly, and the name of this lawsuit will be "Blessed are those who mourn." And I believe we as a nation must mourn, just as the German people had to mourn the deaths of millions that they killed. I think that we have to do that as well. And it will be a blessing to mourn and to admit to our sinfulness, because it certainly affected a nation's conscience. Abortion means nothing. The word abortion in my life was never heard until I was in my 20s.
Well, yeah, so much here with Missy Reilly Smith. Again, wakeup.mom for more information, even her contact information there if you want to reach out to her. But when we get back, we're going to continue on here, learn more about what is her latest project, this class action lawsuit that she's telling us about, suing the United States government for crimes against humanity. It sounds like the right thing to do to me. I wonder why we haven't seen more efforts like this, but I'm sure glad to see this effort now and to learn more about it. And I agree with Missy that we're all victims of abortion in a sense, and we all have we've all been inflicted with this trauma of this ongoing daily mass murder that we're being gaslit by the government and by the culture to say nothing to see here. There's a lot to see here. There's a lot that's wrong. We're going to get into it. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Simple Truth. Jim Havens here with Missy Reilly Smith. You can learn more about her good work over at wakeup.mom. And part of that good work is this project that Missy's working on, suing the U.S. government for crimes against humanity when it comes to abortion, the killing of innocent children, this ongoing daily mass murder in our nation and all around the world, but specifically in our nation, suing the U.S. government for their participation in this. So, Missy, tell us more on this project. Where does it currently stand? Are there lawyers involved to this point? Anything you could share with us there? Who's working on this, and how what can we expect, I guess, to see? Will this actually be before a judge anytime soon?
Well, what I'm trying to do at this moment is to get as many plaintiffs to sign up, and they don't have to be women that have had abortions. I think this is a rather new idea that that we've all been hurt by abortion. That we're all victims. So I think people have to kind of think about that. But if you go to my website, you can sign up, and certainly, if you really can wrap your brain around the concept. I have done a documentary called Crimes Against Humanity, and it explains the premise. We've had, the government has already admitted they were complicit in these crimes under Johnson and Nixon, with Kissinger and Justice Blackmun, all of them with population control, and have admitted that they, they've been were pretty outspoken about population control, which is eugenics, which is murder. And Justice Samuel Alito did say that Roe was a scheme, and he realized that it was an evil scheme. So I am working with lawyers. I think that the more plaintiffs that sign up, I have quite a few, but I don't have as many as I would like, and I am conferring with multiple law firms. One in particular I'm pretty excited about, which is they're women, and I think women can really wrap their brains around this probably a little bit more than men. A lot of law firms are run by boards, and we know that there are problems with that kind of thing when boards can vote against things. So, but the premise still stands. We now have food with HEK 293, which is human embryonic kidney cells from aborted babies, and they are in Cadbury. All of our soda drinks have HEK 293 in them. Doritos, I name a lot of them in this documentary, which can be seen on wakeup.mom. And so, and even now there's this big push for it's abortion in our water because of the RU486. I'm sure you're familiar with the first pill. It cuts off the progesterone and kills the baby because of a lack of nutrition. The second pill is I call it side attack, because I think that they deliberately make both of the pills sound like each other so people get confused. But I had started a campaign, Side Attack, when I had worked with two women who literally their insides had been blown up with side attack, because it precipitates violent nonstop contractions to the point where both of these women had a 9-inch rip in her womb, and both of them had pushed the baby up into the abdomen of them. Both of them came from the infamous Leroy Carhart, who died in the last year. But I became close to both of those women, and what they went through was, I mean, if those weren't crimes against humanity, I don't know what is. But it doesn't seem to. I think this website called Abortion in Our Water is going to be something very, very big. I think Robert Kennedy, when he realizes 700,000 babies, as well as these chemicals, are being flushed down a toilet for the last 12 months. And that these water plants are not capable of cleaning that water out. So even our most strident supporters of abortion, I don't think that they would particularly, I don't think they like the idea of drinking aborted babies and chemicals like the RU486 has. So I think it's got legs. I think people are going to the website. They're interested. They want to talk about it. They want to sign up as plaintiffs. I like the idea that it is, and part of it is that I want to take away the guilt and the shame. Not that we shouldn't be guilty or ashamed, but that there's a commonality that we all have, and that we all share a bit of the shame. I mean, this would never have happened if the church had stood up in the very beginning, and if other people, weren't outside with pitchforks saying this can't be true, you can't do this. But it didn't happen. I mean, the church did not stand up. So I think that it may be an unusual at this moment concept to sue the United States government, but I think I know they've already said they were complicit. So it has legs, and at a certain point I will file it. I think the lawyers are the ones that will know best in what court to file it. I'm not a lawyer myself, but I think that's the beginning, is to find out where it has standing. There's no doubt that there are, oh my heavens, millions and millions of people who've been hurt by abortion, by killing, participating in the murder of their grandchild, their their own child. They're the father of their child. It's, everyone shares in this guilt by not speaking up, just as the Germans had to come to grips with the national mourning that they had to face. We have to face this. We have killed a lot of innocent little babies, and we've hurt a lot of women that were naive. So it's coming along. People are very interested, and I think that it's going to take off, and with God's grace.
Yeah, Missy Reilly Smith is with us. WakeUp.mom is where you can go to find out more about that and about Missy and all of her good work. WakeUp.mom. And no, I like what you're doing very much. To me, the concept resonates very strongly. Again, it's almost, to me, sort of mind-boggling why we're over 50 years down the road here, and that this has not been figured out. This has not been tried. This has not been figured out long before this. There's so much that really I find so frustrating about it all when we really look at the history of what's gone on over these past decades. And you mention a lot of it with respect to the weakness of the church, not speaking and acting as they ought. And we're all members of the church are part of that. So we all have a duty to be speaking up, as we should know crystal clear how wrong this is and what's actually going on, and not allow ourselves to be lulled into this desensitization to act like it's ho-hum, no big deal here. This is a huge deal. And I think that also, you talk about the guilt and the shame. My experience too is just a deep sadness. And I think that's normal. We should all be carrying a deep sadness every single day that this is going on. Our littlest brothers and sisters being mass murdered by the thousands in our nation every single day. So if that's not part of your human experience, that you carry a deep sadness with you each day in the face of this, I think that maybe you're not facing the reality on it. And look, that's not something I've always necessarily been aware of to face so clearly all throughout my life and experience that. But I will say that is part of my experience now. There is a deep sadness that I carry, and that doesn't mean that there's not a great joy that I carry in the Lord as well. Of course, that there's also a reality there in the resurrection of our Lord Jesus and what he has done for us and the life that he offers us. But what are we supposed to do with that in this time? We're supposed to use that life to go and stand up for the least of these. And so, Missy, I just applaud what you're doing. I think the difficult thing here is figuring out, you got to find the right lawyers, which in this time is not easy to find lawyers, I think, that will really resonate with the concept and really know what to do and really be like a bulldog on this thing. But I sure hope you find them, and look forward to hearing more about this. Anything else you want to share on that, or anything else?
Well, there's one thing that I would like, and you think about, and we all kind of put it out there. We need to juxtapose the perspective about, my body, my choice, and to women being, if women only knew the truth, they would band together in a most incredible way. That women are being taken advantage of. Now, the Blessed Mother, when we prayed, over 25 years ago, and asked her for the acronym, said, Women Against the Killing and Exploitation of Unprotected Persons. I mean, there were many women who rushed to say, me too, when Harvey Weinstein, I don't know, had sex with them or was in a bathrobe, whatever. And yet this is so far greater.
Right.
This is just...
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And yeah, again, it all starts by facing the reality. And I think that's the exact thing. That's why this persists, because the devil's real good at distracting us. And Planned Parenthood, basically an extension, an arm of the demonic in our time that is behind so much of this, the other abortion killing centers, the politicians that are deep in this, even many church leaders deep in this, so many that are involved in this. And what they want to do is distract. They don't want you to face the reality, to see the reality of what's going on. But we all know it. So what is preventing us from facing it, from acknowledging it, from living life as it really is? This is going on. What are we going to do about it? We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Simple Truth. Jim Havens here with Missy Reilly Smith, sharing some of her personal testimony with us today, sharing some of her good work with us as well. You can find out more about her and about that work over at wakeup.mom. That's wakeup.mom. All right, one more segment to go, Missy. So I just want to give you the floor. Anything else you want to share that you want to share about your story, about your good work, anything at all, feel free.
Well, I guess there are two things that I'd like to say. One is that prayer, I know there are a lot of people praying. And I think if they could pray for the enlightenment of all, that this is truly it's not just a murder of a child, but we're talking about exploiting. These women are being exploited. And there would be, I think, a totally different perspective on it. The other thing is that I am coming out with a book, Chastity, the New Sexual Revolution. And that can be, you can see the PDF on the website, wakeup.mom. And it's an interesting perspective of bringing in biblical quotes and lovely pictures, and it's a soft touch. It's not a big heavy book. It's not deep. You can keep it on your coffee table and look at it and pick it up and read. There are 3 stories on saints who prize chastity, and there are numerous articles that are, very beautiful and helpful. So that's something that I think is, I'm praying that the pendulum swings and the Blessed Mother does bring back America to purity and chastity, and will lead the world. America will lead the world in chastity and purity. So those are the things that I'm, the documentary, anyone can contact me and we could show it. I think it really is a documentary that should be seen by, the most vulnerable times between 18 years old and 24 are the times when the women are most vulnerable to abortion. And men too. I mean, they're involved in it. So we could show this at a high school or college, junior college, college. So again, you can get in touch with me through the website, wakeup.mom. And so between the book on chastity and the explaining to people how we're being exploited, and through the documentary, I think that would help. So that's about it, I think.
Yeah, Missy Reilly Smith, wakeup.mom. And again, so the class action lawsuit. So this is something where, gain standing. My understanding on this, and I would have a lot to learn about it, but just off the top of my head, that means that those who are bringing the lawsuit have to show that they're harmed in some significant way by the entity that their person or entity they're suing, in this case, the U.S. government, harming all of us by allowing government funded even ongoing daily mass murder of our littlest brothers and sisters, and, as you mentioned, absolutely the exploitation specifically of pregnant moms in need, moms that we ought to be helping. That would be what a good community would do, is help a pregnant mom in need, and not further harm her, and not help her to turn her heart away from her child so much so that you would then kill the child. No, a good community would help the mom turn the heart appropriately to the child in love, and also be there with their hearts turned to the mom and the child in love, and to rally around and to support. That should be what our nation looks like. Sadly, some of it is, but a lot of it isn't, because of what's going on here with this ongoing daily mass murder of abortion. So this, to me, again, I bring it back, I guess, personally to say, I think there is an experience that we all ought to have, and it's one that I do have, of a deep sadness each day in the face of this. How can we really flourish, have human flourishing in our lives, even if we're not participating in this directly in any way? If my littlest brothers and sisters are being treated this way, if the least of these pregnant moms in need are being exploited this way, especially men, these are innocent women and children that are being treated this way by the thousands every day. We're supposed to be happy just going along with our lives? No, I think we are deeply affected by this, and there's no way that we can just live normal lives in the face of this, or there shouldn't be. If we think that there is, I just imagine Catholics in Germany at the time of the Holocaust. You think, if you know there's a concentration camp out there and what's going on, and people are being rounded up and taken out there, these are people in your community. You're just going to be happy, flourishing, going on with your life, not thinking about that, not being deeply saddened by that, which is ongoing every day. We got to put this in perspective. Missy, anything else on it you want to share?
Well, it was interesting. I gave a talk a couple of weeks ago, and there was a woman who is a fire chief, and talking about now we have over 70% of abortions are chemical, and she was saying that. And this reminds me a bit of Eisenhower making the townspeople come into the concentration camp and the putrid smell of death. And of course, Abby Johnson talks about the putrid smell of death in the killing places. And she was saying, as when they get this emergency phone call, and these women are hemorrhaging to death, and they race into the home, the apartment, there is a smell of death. And it's horrifying. I think that we have, an abortion industrial complex, something that is very, very large. I don't think the average person would want to be drinking aborted babies or eating them in our food, in our drinks. All of these things have to get out. And obviously at this moment, you have a platform where it can get out. Most people sit in front of their TVs and they don't get the news. They don't know what the truth is. And so, and yet the statistics, I believe, are very, very high now of women that are having abortions. I mean, is it not 3 out of 4 that somehow been touched by abortion? So I think we've got power in numbers. I think that the prayer of the Holy Spirit would be to enlighten the exploitation. That, David Dilaudon, I mean, talking about taking the skulls of 5-month-old babies and putting them on the backs of rats to watch. I mean, what kind of society does that?
Right. Yeah. And it also ought to anger us. And that's a good thing. That's a normal thing in the face of evil like this. And then we are to use that rightly, not to do evil with that anger, but to do good, to be fired up to go and do the good. We've got to end this. We've got to have an urgency about this. Missy Smith, thank you so much for all of your good work and for coming on, sharing some of your story with us today. Greatly appreciate you. Want to ask everybody pray for Missy, her good work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jim.
All right. Again, you can find out more on Missy, her good work. If you want to reach out to her as well, go to her website, wakeup.mom, Women Against the Killing and Exploitation of Unprotected Persons. That's wakeup.mom. To all.